Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora here for you inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios, and always grateful to be here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So thank you for being here with us. Thanks for taking some time with us here this morning, and we appreciate you so very much here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So thank you for your support, and thank you for listening up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're connected with the show, thank you for being here with us. Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Of course, Great Lakes Honda City has been with us for over a decade, and you will find them on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday for sales and service. And of course, you can get a sneak peek of their new and used vehicle inventory by going to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we have two awesome conversations coming up for you here today in just a few minutes, around 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We will be joined by Dave Paziak, the longtime basketball head coach as well as basketball analyst. Dave will be joining us to recap the NBA Finals, which finished up here just a few days ago, back on Sunday, June 22nd, with the Oklahoma City Thunder winning their first ever NBA title. Both teams in the championship were going for their first title historically, and Thunder got there first, defeating the Indiana Pacers. And so we will discuss that and kind of recap this season in its whole, just thoughts that we have as we finish up 2024-25 and head toward the NBA draft. And in the second hour of the show, between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we will be joined by Dukes Knutson, and Dukes Knutson and I will be speaking on a bunch of different topics. Of course, Dukes comes to us as the Tampa Bay Rays press box manager, and Mr. Knutson and I are going to be speaking on a plethora of topics in blessings and baseball, which include, first and foremost, the Almighty God, faith, as well as the future of the Rays in Tampa, what his thoughts are and what he's hearing from being there with the team, as we've been hearing from the outside. A bunch of different things, right? Obviously, the hurricane last year affected the Tropicana Field's ability to host the team this season, and then it was, okay, are they going to fix that? How long will it take to fix that? Then on top of that, they were supposed to have a new stadium plan potentially agreed upon and in place. That did not happen, and now the conversation is the team going to be sold? And if the team is in fact sold, what does that mean for the future of the Rays? Where will they be? And will it be in the state of Florida? So a lot of things to talk about with Dukes, as well as the Major League Baseball season so far. Always happy to speak with Dukes Knutson and Dave Paziak, so can't wait to share all of this with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora this morning, where sports truly meets that thing called life. But before we go there, with a few minutes before Dave comes on, I do want to jump into the Celtics have been wheeling and dealing. Now, the Celtics were the team that I had the opportunity of winning back-to-back NBA Finals, and they unfortunately went through injuries, and Jason Tatum went down, and the team did not move forward. I don't want to take credit from any other team that faced off against them. It's just hard, right? We saw Tyrese Halliburton go down with an injury during the NBA Finals Game 7. You'd like to see both teams full go and what would have happened with that, just like you would like to see Jason Tatum and what things would have been like if Jason Tatum was, in fact, out there. Now, looking at the trade that's going on now, the Celtics are getting Georges Niang as well as a future second-round pick. The Atlanta Hawks are getting Kristaps Porzingis and a future second-round pick, and the Nets are getting Terrence Mann and the 2025 first-round pick, 22nd overall, from the Atlanta Hawks. This is a proposed trade, as things that come up here are not set in stone right away, due to the fact that we have to have a full opening of this opportunity. So you hear all these things in the NBA, and then they call them proposed, right? Because we have to wait for them to actually go through in the correct amount of timing. So as we look at this right now, this is a move that takes Porzingis, who has not been a Celtic that long, and moves him forward. So this is something. I was just talking to my aunt. My aunt's a big time fan of the Celtics, and we were just talking about Kristaps Porzingis. And now, as we look at Porzingis, who is moving on to the Atlanta Hawks allegedly in this deal, he was with the Boston Celtics when he came in. People thought, okay, maybe this is the move that can secure them, that they're going to be an NBA Finals team, be a team that can consistently fight for a title. Was only with the team last season and this season, 2023-24 and 2024-25. That's it. Before that, he started out a New York Knicks for 3 seasons. Then he was with the Mavericks for 3 seasons. Then he was with Washington for a little bit of time before he went to the Boston Celtics. So typically 2 or 3 seasons and he moves on, and that is happening here in this proposed trade, as we'll see Porzingis go to the Atlanta Hawks. And this was not the only deal that has been proposed by the Boston Celtics as they continue to move forward. The Boston Celtics, it was the second trade in less than 24 hours for them, who sent Drew Holiday to the Portland Trailblazers for Anthony Simons, and 2 second-round picks, which happened on Monday evening. Now, according to ESPN's Bobby Marks, the Celtics saved $180 million in luxury taxes on what was originally projected to be a combined payroll and tax bill of over $500 million next season. So moving these players is also going to free up some money in luxury tax, almost $200 million saved in luxury taxes by making these deals. As part of the deal, Boston will receive Cleveland's 2031 second-round pick, which the Hawks previously had the rights to, and Atlanta will take Boston's least favorable 2026 second-round choice. So that's what we're looking at here as we step forward. Now, Boston is now below the second luxury tax apron and could have a path to getting out of the luxury tax entirely this season, which is huge. So the Achilles tear to Jason Tatum in the second round of the playoffs against the Knicks obviously had something to do, like I said, with them not being at full strength. And now what this team is going to look like once he comes back will be interesting. Porzingis is coming off 2 strong seasons in Boston. He shot a career-best 41.2% from three-point while averaging 19 points per game. Now, as we move forward, the question becomes, what do the Celtics do and what will the Hawks become? So the Hawks have massive salary cap space by moving on from Mann's $15.5 million salary for each of the next 3 years. Porzingis is on a $30 million expiring contract and could potentially have long-term future with the Hawks, so we shall see. We know that All-Star guard Trae Young has a player option, and Dyson Daniels, last season's most improved player, is up for a contract extension this summer. So maybe that's to entice Trae Young and Dyson Daniels to stay with the team, right? So to take a look at this and say, maybe that was a conversation. Maybe the conversation was along the lines of, okay, if I'm going to stay a Hawk, what are we going to do? Show me that we plan to win and win now. And this move for Porzingis could be a sign from the Atlanta Hawks brass that they are willing to put other pieces onto the team and get guys that obviously have had time within the NBA. So we'll see. Now, speaking of what could happen with teams and if teams will be sold and whatnot, the NBA owners approve a $1.5 billion sale of the Knicks. Now, or part not of the Knicks, of the Wolves and the Lynx. I looked down for a second. My fault on that. So the NBA ownership, I'm sure I made a bunch of people freak out. April Fools. And the best time to play April Fools is not on April 1st. Because if it's on April 1st, then people are ready for it. That's why you have to play April Fool's jokes like I just did. You have to play April Fool's jokes. You have to play April Fool's jokes at the end of June, but it's okay. So happy to be here with you and happy to have the conversation. But yes, so NBA owners approve a $1.5 billion sale of the Minnesota Timberwolves of the NBA and the Minnesota Lynx of the WNBA. Now the $1.5 billion dollar sale, that's billion with a B, of the Minnesota Timberwolves from Glenn Taylor to an investment group led by e-commerce entrepreneur Mark Lohr and former baseball star Alex Rodriguez. This is something I felt like I heard about a long time ago with A-Rod being connected. Now, gained NBA approval Tuesday, which was June 24th, yesterday, finalizing a complex and contentious process more than 4 years after the deal was reached. The ownership transfer that Taylor tried to stop last year received a unanimous vote from the league's board of governors that comprised 30 team owners. The deal, which is expected to close this week, nearly 51 months and more than 1,500 days after the initial agreement, includes the four-time WNBA champion Minnesota Lynx. The Timberwolves are planning an introductory news conference for Lohr and Rodriguez next month in Vegas during NBA Summer League. Lohr and Rodriguez will serve as co-chairman on the board, with Lohr as Timberwolves governor and Rodriguez as alternate governor, is what the league announced. The Lynx, Rodriguez will serve as governor, and Lohr will be alternate governor, so they will be flip-flopped for the WNBA franchise. Lohr said, quote, "We fully recognize the great responsibility that comes with serving as stewards of these exceptional franchises. We are committed to building an organization that sets the standard for excellence, is universally admired, and rooted in pride that spans generations," end quote. Now, the business partners and close friends who met during the pandemic over a Zoom call have said they're committed to keeping the teams in Minnesota. Alex Rodriguez, the longtime Major League Baseball star, said, quote, "I've dedicated my entire life to the world of sports, not just as a game, but as a powerful force that unites people, uplifts communities, and changes lives. I'm incredibly honored and energized to roll up my sleeves and get to work. I know what it takes to be a champion, and I'm ready to bring that same commitment and drive to create a winning culture in Minnesota," end quote. So that is where we're at right now. The 83-year-old Glenn Taylor, who grew up on a Minnesota dairy farm and built a fortune with a business that specialized in printing wedding invitations, bought the Timberwolves for about $88 million in 1994 to prevent them from moving after a deal between the original owners and a group in New Orleans was nixed by the NBA. After Lohr and Rodriguez were outbid for the New York Mets by hedge fund manager Steve Cohen, they turned their attention to basketball. So that is what happened with Lohr and Rodriguez. The value of the franchise has more than doubled since that April 10th, 2021 agreement, due largely to soaring NBA revenues. Forbes has estimated the Timberwolves are worth $3.1 billion right now after they were bought. Think about that. After they were bought by Glenn Taylor for $88 million in 1994. Here we are in 2025, $3.1 billion. Nothing bad with that. Sportico's most recent calculation pegged the club at $3.29 billion. Both publications put them as the third lowest in the league, playing in a mid-sized market in a 35-year-old arena. So how about that? Valued at over $3.2 billion as a franchise, and that's the third lowest in the league. I think the NBA's got some money. I think so. The Lynx have been valued between $230 million by Forbes and $240 million by Sportico, so that's great news there for them, and we'll see what happens as we step forward. Now, Glenn Taylor, I don't want to forget him because, like they said, with him coming in and working to, bought the team, bought the Timberwolves, worked his tail off growing up, raised money on a farm, raised money with a wedding invitation business, and ends up buying a team that's worth $88 million at the time in 1994, keeps the team in Minnesota, and is now selling them for more than what he had bought them for. That $88 million plus change, $1.5 billion sale. And now, hopefully, Lohr and Rodriguez will bring them into a great new era. But I want to remember the era of Glenn Taylor and thank Glenn Taylor, because if the whole part of this deal was, I want to say, if part of this deal was to keep them in Minnesota, that's extremely important and a beautiful thing. You never like to see franchises have to leave the city they're in, and we're going to talk with Dukes Knutson about that, ironically, in hour number 2. So, plenty coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we are going to get that set and ready for you as Dave Paziak, who has been with us through the NBA playoffs once again this season, joins us after this fast break to speak on the NBA Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder winning their first title, and what he thinks about their future, as well as the Pacers right after this, inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. This is Wake Up Call. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. I am honored and privileged, as always, to have Mr. Dave Paziak here with me. We call it DT and DP, Dan Tortora. Dave Paziak here talking with you about hoops, and we are on the heels of seeing the Oklahoma City Thunder win their first ever NBA title. They did it over the Indiana Pacers, and they gave us a series that was all 7 games. With that being said, Mr. Paziak, how we doing?
Doing good, Dan. Trying to stay out of the heat. A little bit better today than the last couple of days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's suffocating. And you know what? People don't believe me, Dave, if they haven't been down to Florida, or if they haven't really experienced it. But as you know, Florida is the second hub of my company. I spend a lot of time down in Florida. I have lived down in Florida. And I was just down there recently. I tell people all the time, and I said this actually last year, I said 83 degrees up here and 92 degrees down in Florida. It was better for 92 down in Florida than it was up here. There is a humidity and there is a thickness of the air and a suffocation feeling that you don't get down in Florida that you get up in central New York and upstate New York. I don't know what it is, Dave, but everybody thinks, oh no, South is so hot. And it is hot down in the South. But there's a different type of hot that when it's hot like this in central New York, if it's 90 plus, there's a different feeling than being down in Florida. And it almost makes you just want to stay in the house.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think it's even more so if you go to like the Southwest, like Arizona or something. It's even drier. But I think you're right. And the other thing is too is you're not acclimated to it in the Northeast the same way folks are in Florida or down either in the Southeast or the Southwest. But
Yep.
last couple of days were tough, man.
Yeah, yeah. I watered my plants. I did do that, and then I tried to just stay out of the sun's way. But I definitely took care of what I needed to take care of. Dave, we got a lot of things to discuss here. I do want to get to the point of conversation here that obviously just happened with the Thunder defeating the Pacers. Now, again, a lot of things that happen in this game are things that you and I have spoken about. So it was Tyrese Halliburton. Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to play? What's going to happen? He gets hurt early on in this game and he goes out. That's one. Two, turning the ball over. That is something that the Pacers had an issue with. At one point in the third quarter, the number was 21 turnovers for them total to 7 by the Thunder. That is 3 times, for those of you playing the mathematical game, that is 3 times as many turnovers as their opponent. Plus, not allowing the Thunder in transition. Plus, not allowing them to get in front of the basket. All of these things happen. Now, Halliburton being out obviously affects this team because he's not just a scorer, as you brought up so well within these last couple weeks. He is a facilitator, and he is not just one of those guys that's going to take it and shoot. He's looking for his teammates, and he's getting assists. We saw the Thunder penetrate and dish. We did not see a lot of that from the Indiana Pacers, and of course, Halliburton was not out there for the majority of the game. So, Halliburton, turnovers, transition, high percentage shots. All of those things are on my mind thinking back to Game 7. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was a great series, first of all. I think, if you enjoy basketball, whether you had a rooting interest or not, I thought it was just a great series, entertaining series, and basketball being a copycat sport, hopefully the way the Thunder play, the way the Pacers play, hopefully that'll, start to bleed into, other teams in the NBA, and, hopefully it'll bleed into, college basketball and high school basketball a little bit too. In terms of Game 7, a little bit of a downer with Halliburton going down, and we talked about that multiple times through the playoffs. Staying healthy, I think, is as important as anything. And the Pacers and the Thunder were two teams that kind of avoided. I mean, Indiana had a little injury issue early in the season with some guys,
Yeah.
but once they kind of got it going midseason on, and then Oklahoma City, those two teams managed to stay the healthiest. Their combination of being very talented and staying the healthiest, I think that got them to the finals. And I think the fact that they both had a lot of depth. But like we talked about, and every you know if you flip the script, the SGA goes down. I don't think Oklahoma City wins the title without him. So you lose your best player. That's a really really tough ask to overcome that. And the other thing that you think about in that respect is Halliburton had the calf injury, right? Regular season, that probably takes him out for a couple of weeks, but it's the playoffs, it's the finals, you know, high level athletes, competitive athletes, they want to get out there. Um, did that lead to the Achilles injury? It's kind of the same thing that happened to Kevin Durant a few seasons back, where he was playing through a calf injury, and he ends up with the Achilles injury in the playoffs. So I think that um, especially given the number, Lillard went out with the same injury. I mean, I think the NBA, they're going to take a look at, was it just kind of a fluke year? I think I saw there was like 8 guys in the league that went down with that injury this year, which is like an all-time high.
Yeah.
So, I think you'll see the league really study that, and try to draw some conclusions. Whether it be did they bring Halliburton back too soon off from the calf injury? Is that something that, a future player in that situation, I'm suspecting that the team will be a little bit more conservative with bringing him back, even if it's the playoffs, because of the investment they have in these guys. Um, so I mean, that's like kind of the one downer takeaway,
Yeah.
but that shouldn't diminish at all, what OKC did. I mean, that they were the best team in the league um, all season, best team in the league in the playoffs. certainly a worthy champion. And I think the thing that's impressive about them, I mean, you think back 5 years ago, they're the second worst team in the league. I mean, they won 22 games. 4 years ago, they won 24 games, you know. Then they sneak into the playoffs. Then last year, big bounce, best record in the West, get knocked out, and then this year they win the championship. So, um, really a great build. And the scary thing about it is their core is together for another year, and a lot of their guys are together for a couple more years before they start really having to make some decisions about salary and about um, what they can do and what they have to do to keep that group together. I mean, if you go back to the last time Oklahoma City was really at the top of the league with Durant and Westbrook and Harden,
Yeah.
um, Presti made probably the one really bad move since he's been the GM there, because like if you look at his track record on the whole, like the number of draft picks that have hit and what he's been able to do as far as putting together a roster through his entire tenure, it's been really impressive. But the one really bad whiff he had was when they decided to let Harden go and keep Serge Ibaka when they had to make the salary decision. Um, when they get to that point 2 or 3 years down the road where they have to start making some decisions on some of these guys, um, that's the thing that could derail um, what looks like a team that should be right there for the next several seasons. But they're a fun watch. I mean, deep team. SGA has really emerged as a superstar, and I think with him and um, Williams and Holmgren, I mean that's a great three guys to build around, and their supporting cast really has been well assembled to play with and complement those guys.
Yeah, and you speak on what has happened here with the Oklahoma City Thunder and decisions that have been made. I go back to the decision that was made in the summer of 2019, where the Oklahoma City Thunder had Paul George. They traded him to the Los Angeles Clippers. In return, they got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP and now NBA champion of this season. They also got Danilo Gallinari, Jalen Williams, who showed up big in this Thunder run to their first NBA title. They also got Trey Mann, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Dylan Jones, a 2025 first-round pick swap, and a 2026 first-round pick. So think about this. That deal that they made for Paul George to leave Oklahoma City, they bring in guys like Jalen Williams and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander that help you win an NBA title. Plus, this season, with that being made 6 years ago, that deal in 2019, you get a 2025 first-round pick swap and a 2026 first-round pick. So, Dave, you got an NBA champion that is now not only have guys like SGA and Jalen Williams on this roster, but you now are going to see what they'll do with that 2025 first-round pick and 2026 first-round pick as well.
Yeah, and I mean they've got two first-round picks tonight, I believe, right? So it'll be very interesting. I mean, they could package and flip those picks to really, um, take a shot at adding another big player or moving up near the top of the draft. So it'll be very interesting to see, how they manage that. And they're not going to have to give up anything in their core to do it.
Yeah. We lost Dave here for a second. So
Yeah, not sure what happened there.
yeah,
So
go ahead.
click the wrong button.
Yeah,
So
you're good. So what were you
yeah.
saying? You're talking about the picks. Yep.
Yeah, so I said, they've got a couple of first round picks tonight. So I mean, they have some great flexibility. They've got cap space. They've got all their young guys under contract for their foreseeable future. They could package some of those picks and they could either keep the picks, see what they can get mid late first round, or they could try to package them, move up to the top of the draft, or package them for an established player that's going to just add more depth to their core. So, I mean, they're a team that's got, I mean, they're sitting perfectly right now. Combination of having their core all locked up for the next couple of years, having some cap flexibility and having a lot of assets at their disposal. And you're right on the money about like they really parlayed the Paul George situation, um, was kind of the catalyst for building this roster. And they were, you know, before that deal, they were a little bit stuck in NBA purgatory where they're kind
Yeah.
of good enough to be competitive, but not good enough to contend. They make the George deal, take a big hit for a couple of years, and now 5 years later, they're NBA champs. So, I mean, pretty good trade-off there.
Yeah, and looking at the fact that you make this deal and now you reflect on the deal and say, okay, we're NBA champions, and 2 days later we go into the draft with two first round picks, and courtesy of something, a deal that they had with the Miami Heat gives them the 15th overall pick, and then courtesy of the deal that we were talking about with the Clippers gives them the 24th overall pick. So you have the NBA champions drafting twice in the top 24 of this draft that will feature this season 59 picks. So, I mean, not too shabby for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And like you said, they can package it, they can move up, they could do different things with it. Not always do you hear, Dave, that the team that just won a championship is going to go into the draft with capital and the opportunity to wheel and deal there. So the Oklahoma City Thunder, to their fans, think about this, folks. The worst team in basketball when they were in Seattle at the end of their time in Seattle as the Supersonics. Worst team in basketball, 30 of 30 franchises. Moved to Oklahoma City, were in the basement of the NBA. Had Kevin Durant, who went from Seattle to Oklahoma City. Then the team gets better, right? You have Russell Westbrook, you have James Harden. Then, like you said, James Harden, he leaves. He's not one of the guys that stays on here due to moves that kept Serge Ibaka, not him. And here's Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, two good players, but both of them wanted to shoot. That team eventually breaks apart. We see Jeremy Grant from Syracuse end up there. There's a bunch of different guys that have been in and out of Oklahoma City, Paul George included. And now we see NBA champions that, thanks to that Paul George deal, got some of these guys, and thanks to that deal, now have another first-round pick this year and have a first-round pick next year. So, Dave, it must be nice to be Oklahoma City, and to those fans that were dedicated to the Thunder way back when, wow, have they had an opportunity to appreciate what it's like to go from the basement and be at the top of the mountain. Started from the bottom, now they're here as NBA champions and two picks in the top 24.
Yeah, their last iteration with Durant and Westbrook and whatnot, you could see that building. Um, and they got to the finals and lost, and everybody was like, "Wow, this is a team that's going to contend for the next 10 years." And then, like we said, probably Presti's one misstep since he's been the GM there was letting Harden go, and they were never able to kind of get back to that level until now, and it's kind of repeated itself. And like they have, they're the second youngest team to ever win an NBA title. I believe they're the youngest team in the league this year, if not the youngest, in the two or three youngest teams in the league. Um, they're a team that, I mean, they seem to get along. It seems to be like a, um, no ego environment right now.
Yeah.
But you worry about, I remember like when the Lakers had their run, Pat Riley, his book, The Winner Within and everything, one of the things he talked about was the disease of me. And when you start having success like that, at some point, either guys themselves or people in their ear, like their agents, their families, the people close to them that
Yeah.
influence them, maybe there comes a point where guys got to get theirs. And, now maybe Williams or Holmgren or whoever's not satisfied being the second or third wheel after SGA. Um, so that's why I say I mean, you look at it on the surface and um, that mix of guys feels like they should be contending and near the top of the league for the next 5 to 10 years at least. But things have a way of happening, and when they have to start paying, when the bill comes due on these guys being on rookie contracts and whatnot, then there's going to have to be some decisions made. So But OKC fans, like people that have been Thunder fans, certainly enjoy it and have a lot to look forward to in the near term. Um, it'll be very interesting to see how this, how they're able to keep it going. I mean, they almost got 3 first-round picks this year. My Sixers, if they didn't tank the way they did down the stretch, like, they owe Oklahoma City a pick, and because they dropped into the bottom five, it was protected. But had the Sixers not gone in the toilet the way they did at the end of the season, the Thunder could have ended up with 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, and that would have been amazing for them, but two ain't bad by any stretch of the imagination. My Toronto Raptors, Dave, typically go into a draft for Lord knows how many times this has happened, but would not have a first and a second round pick. They had one or the other. Some drafts they didn't have a first round pick. Some drafts they didn't have a second round pick. This year they have the 9th and the 39th. I'm really hoping that they keep them, Dave, and I don't know with whatever's left on this team and whatever this team, and I know Scotty Barnes and there's a couple guys, but the reality of it all for Toronto, I would hope that they have money to spend. I would hope that they're moving in this offseason. I would hope that they try to build through the draft. I would hope that they keep the 9th pick, if not trade up. Any thoughts on Toronto? Because I'm frustrated, Dave. I am very frustrated.
Okay, I mean, you got a ring a lot more recently than my Sixers, so I'm probably more frustrated than you. But you know, the Raptors are in an interesting spot. I think they're a team that if they make the right move in the draft, if they hit on the pick, I think they've got some flexibility with the roster and with cap space and everything.
Yeah.
Like if they make a couple of solid moves in the offseason, especially with the East is really kind of a great unknown right now. When you think about, Boston just shed half their salary in the last week,
Yeah.
getting rid of Holiday and Porzingis, and then Tatum's out for the season. Uncertainty in the East right now. The Sixers come back with, Maxey, Embiid, and George all healthy and playing at a high level. They go from, being a lottery team to being in the mix. But, who knows if, what George has left and what Embiid has left. You're looking at like Cleveland and the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks don't have a coach right now. Cleveland, do they have the right core to come out of the East and get to the NBA Finals? Maybe.
Yeah.
But I think like a team like Toronto, I think there's a window of opportunity there for them to interject themselves. Detroit's another team. I think that, but I think the Raptors, if they make a couple of good moves, a couple of the right moves in this offseason and hit on the draft pick, I think they can kind of be part of the conversation next year in the
Yeah, I mean that is the hopes, right? That there's going to be some moves that are made by a team like Toronto that has been relatively quiet. You talked about them being in purgatory and having to figure out what they were going to do. Are you going to let guys go and build toward your future? Are you going to hold on and see what happens? And so, I mean, obviously Pascal Siakam on the side of the Indiana Pacers. Before the Pacers, he was a Raptor. He won a championship there, and he worked his tail off to try and win a championship where he is right now with Indiana. I give him a lot of credit. I know people talk about Halliburton, but they can't forget Siakam by any stretch of the imagination. We talked about moves, Dave, and you brought some things up here. There's been a few moves made. New Orleans, the Pelicans, and the Washington Wizards made a deal here, and so the Pelicans will get Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, and the 2025 number 40 overall pick in this draft that's here this week. And Washington will get C.J. McCollum, a guy that I was around, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-round pick from the Pelicans. And then on the side of the Boston Celtics, I mentioned going into our conversation today that Atlanta, there's a 3-team trade between Atlanta, Boston, and Brooklyn. Atlanta gets Kristaps Porzingis. Boston gets Georges Niang as well as future second-round pick. Brooklyn gets Terrence Mann and the 22nd overall pick in this year's draft. So Brooklyn gets to see what that's going to look like as early as tonight. And Boston also moved Drew Holiday to Portland, getting Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks. Your thoughts on what we've seen so far? Because the Wizards and New Orleans, the Pelicans and the Wizards got into a trade here, but the focus has been on the Boston Celtics shedding a lot of money and what's being said to be clearing luxury tax space of $180 million. So, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Celtics, I mean, they were a team that a lot of people were kind of keeping their eyes on what they were going to do in the offseason. Had Tatum not gotten hurt, they still had some decisions to make about guys to bring back. And, they were going to have some cap issues. The move sending Holiday to Portland, kind of, it's a weird move.
Yeah.
You kind of get it from the Boston standpoint. I mean, they shed some salary, and I think I think like Holiday is kind of, I mean, he's hit the backside. I mean, he's still a high level player, but not nearly at the level he was a couple of years ago. Um, so I think that move makes sense from a Boston standpoint. Interesting that Portland would take on his contract. They wanted to move Simons to kind of feature a couple of their other young guys. I get that. It feels like the kind of move where they're looking for, Portland's got a decent young core, and they're looking at a guy like Holiday to come in and get like kind of be the locker room leader, I think. But it's a pretty expensive locker room leader. So, that's kind of a strange deal. The Porzingis thing, same thing. I think by Boston unloading Porzingis and unloading Holiday, um, they've kind of signaled now that they're in. I don't want to say they're punting on this season because there could be more moves to come. But they went from a championship contending lineup. You lose Tatum probably for the whole year. There's still talk about where's Jaylen Brown fit into the whole picture.
Yeah.
But Boston, I mean, clearly by making those moves, it's either punt on the season and set themselves up for the following year when Tatum returns, or they've got more moves to be made because they shed half their salary and gave themselves a little bit of flexibility to, I don't know if they're trying to stay relevant and compete next year because, I mean, it doesn't appear they have the roster to do that right now. They could be more setting themselves up for when Tatum comes back the following year.
Yeah, and like some people, I mean, Jaylen Brown and Derek White still on the team right now. And so there are people that woke up this morning that are happy that those names are still in Boston green, but we shall see. A final note here then, and Jerry, who's a Celtics fan, he just chimed in and said he is not happy at all with any thoughts of Jaylen Brown not being on the team. I am in full agreement with that because I said a couple of years before Jaylen Brown really came up on the national scene, I was like, I don't know what it is, but I kind of feel good about this guy. He was one of those guys that it was like he wasn't the household name, but I felt good about him. And he definitely showed up. He's an NBA champion, and God bless and good for him on that. Had an opportunity to cross paths with Jason Tatum. So I'm hoping the best for the Celtics, and I know some Celtic fans are around me here, and we get to talk a lot. So I'm hoping that you continue to wake up to White and Brown still on your team. Dave, final note here. Indiana, do they have any shot of taking a run at this again? Do you think that this team is set up to do it? Because now Halliburton just had his surgery, and now he is going to be rehabbing as well.
I think given where things are in the East and the fact that the Pacers rely on depth, I think they're still going to be one of the better teams in the East without Halliburton. Do I think they can come out of the East and win the title without him? Probably not. But, a lot of that depends on what some of these other teams do. But like right now, there's nobody in the East that you can say is head and shoulders the clear-cut favorite going into next year. And Indiana still had, I mean, it's one of the nice things. They had 8 guys averaging double figures in the final. So, that's one of the nice things about having roster depth and everything. So, I think they can be in the mix. I think without Halliburton, I think it's a really heavy lift to get back to the final. So,
yeah, I would tend to agree with that. And it's sad to see guys like Tatum and Halliburton not just out now, but out for the future here and having to wait to see them. Usually when a season ends, you're like, all right, we didn't have them this season, but we'll see them back out there in game one of the following season. The unfortunate thing about some of these injuries and this Achilles injury that's been nagging the NBA is that we have to be without our superstars for extended periods of time. So more than anything else, we pray for their health, their recovery, and their wellness. Dave, as always, I appreciate it. I will have you back on soon because we have to recap the draft, get ready for the offseason and free agency, and we're going to do a race thing, Dave. We're going to do this thing between you and I. We're going to have this fun race between the Sixers and the Raptors of who can make a better move quicker. So we'll have some fun with it this offseason.
Sounds good, Dan. Great to talk to you as always.
Great to talk with you as well. I'll talk with you soon.
We'll see you.
See you. That coming from Dave Paziak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We're going to take a quick step aside here on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. When we come back, blessings and baseball is back. Dukes, where are things at right now with Tampa Bay? We hear a lot of talk from the outside looking in. Where are the Rays right now? We'll discuss that, and we'll get into Major League Baseball so far. So Dukes Knutson in the queue, ready to go, and he will be with us right after this fast break.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. And of course, we are inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. I am honored and privileged to have my next guest here on the broadcast. You know that we have the opportunity to speak throughout the year, and it's something that we have come to call blessings and baseball. Speaking about the American wonderful pastime game of baseball that is with us in the present and the future. And we cannot thank the sport of baseball enough for what it does to connect us. It's how Dukes and I know each other. So if not for baseball, we may not be on this screen here together today. So baseball definitely has a place in our world and in our friendship, and it has a place in so many lives. And of course, before baseball in that title, you see blessings, and speaking on what we're proud to have in our lives and being positive and thankful for the life that God has given us. So with that being said, I am picture in picture with one of the best there is, Mr. Dukes Knutson. Dukes, how are you?
Oh man, blessed beyond belief, Dan. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So happy to be here with you. Since the last time that we talked, a few things are going on, and Dukes and I will get into them here today. But before anything else, you see that we're speaking on the Almighty God, faith, the future of the Rays in Tampa, and Major League Baseball so far. So starting with God is where it should all start. I would love to know, since the last time we talked, what you are most grateful for and how these last couple of weeks have been for you.
Oh gosh, Dan, you are putting me on the spot here, but there's so many things to be grateful for every single day. I guess let's start off with my role as the team chaplain through Baseball Chapel with some of our rehab rays down in Port Charlotte. I've been going down there once or twice a week and having Bible studies with some of those guys, and I'm seeing a lot of growth, a lot of incredible questions that they have about both faith and baseball and the relationship of the two. So I'm just blessed to be to have that kind of a role. Last Friday we had a Bible study with our major league guys. And then we had chapel Saturday with the major league team, and so yeah, that's just to be able to talk about God and the importance of faith with these young men is such a privilege and such a blessing for me. My faith gets fueled when I see these young people who are truly interested in faith.
Well, and Dukes, we don't really hear the national media spend a lot of time covering faith and covering Bible studies and these pieces. What does it mean to you to have this? Because honestly, without talking with you, I wouldn't have even known about them because they're not spoken about and they're not given the spotlight. So what does it mean that we have for Major League Baseball the opportunity and the resources for those Major League Baseball players that want to get involved in faith, in Bible study, and talking about God, that there are opportunities that are there for them within this league?
I guess I approach it, Dan, from the attitude that there's nothing in this life more important than a person's relationship with the Lord. These young baseball players I work with, I hope they go on to have Hall of Fame careers. But someday when they're lying on their deathbed, the Hall of Fame career won't matter too much at that point. Yeah. What is going to matter is their relationship with Jesus Christ. That is eternal. It has eternal ramifications. And to try to convince and then support these young men in understanding how important their decisions that they make now in regards to their own personal faith journey are so important. We live in a culture that basically downplays that. In fact, just Monday night, I was down in Port Charlotte, and we talked about two topics that we don't always talk a lot about, particularly as young people, and that's marriage and death. Mm-hmm. And both of those topics are so critical that we need to talk about them. We need to form our viewpoints, even at these young ages like these guys are. I'm not sure if you heard about it or not, but we had a real tragedy here in Sarasota about 10 days ago when one of the Baltimore Orioles um, rookies, he's playing in the complex league, but he was killed in a jet ski accident and 19 years old. And again, I go back to what I was referring to earlier. At this, his baseball career means nothing to him right now,
Yeah.
but his relationship with the Lord means everything. And so even at 19, 20 years old, we need to share with people how important it is to make a decision in regards to your faith journey.
Well, I think, and you bring up a great point here, Dukes. We all think we have time.
Yep.
And, what did they say? The devil's biggest lie is tomorrow. And just, yeah, put it off tomorrow. Yeah, you can apologize tomorrow. You can go chase your dreams tomorrow. You can work hard tomorrow. You can get out of bed tomorrow. And eventually, at some point in our lives, tomorrow does not come on this planet, but it comes in eternity. That time, like you said, a young guy, less than 20 years old, here he is, whole life ahead of him, prospect, going to go out there, going to be a major leaguer, going to do some amazing things, jet ski accident, and all of that's gone. It seems, and I think I said this to my dad a couple days ago, I said, I don't want people to keep living in this world of, I'm going to enjoy my life at some point. I'm going to start living if I find out that I'm dying. That's when you typically hear, and there's songs made about this all the time, but you typically hear people say, I'm going to start living now that I know that there's a clock on my life. And the reality is, there's a clock on everybody's lives. We just don't think that unless we hear cancer, unless we hear AIDS, unless we hear, whatever it may be, right? So this, that, or the third, this is going on, that's going on, and this is how much time you have. We all have a clock, but we don't pay attention to it until a doctor says something or an accident happens and you're laying in a hospital bed attached to a bunch of different IVs and a tube and whatnot. I'd love to get your thoughts on time, Dukes, because it seems to be the thing that a lot of us don't think about until somebody tells us we don't have much left.
Well, exactly. And I shared with the guys the other night, I'm 75 years old. I mean, my clock is running out. And yet none of us in that room, me being 75, those guys being around 20 years old, none of us really believes. Well, we know in our minds that we have a clock. We know that someday we're going to die,
Yeah.
but none of us believes that it's going to be today or tomorrow. We don't live our lives that way. And the fact of the matter is, and scripture is so clear on this, that nobody knows the hour of the day. So the important thing is, how do you live your life?
Yeah.
And I try to live my life as if today is the last day. I'm not, I think I shared this with you once before, Dan, but I like to use the analogy of life as a baseball game. And if we go by statistics, I give each inning is 9 years of life.
Yeah.
So at the end of 9 innings, you got 81 years. That's approximately the average lifespan today. Well, again, Dan, I'm in the ninth inning right now. I'm in the top of the ninth. It's not, who knows? I might get some extra innings, but am I prepared? Am I living my life as if the game's going to end here soon? And for these young guys, again, you might get rained out in the third inning, like this young gentleman for the Orioles.
Yeah.
So it's how we live our life, and I think we need to look at it from that perspective that life is so precious, it is so fragile, and so we need to live life as if today is our last out.
And said so eloquently and intertwining sports and life, and Wake Up Call's tagline for many, many years has been where sports meets life. And you just embodied that, Dukes, here with Dukes Knutson, the Tampa Bay Rays press box manager. So as we step forward and we look at our time, and I want to go back to this Bible study and just sitting with a bunch of people and talking about the Lord, when you are in that room and they're looking to you, and some of them have never been to a Bible study, some of them have never talked about God, some of them don't have a relationship with God, and they look to you, Dukes, and look to you essentially as a messenger, right? Teach me about God. If they look to you to learn, what do you learn from them?
Well, as I mentioned, my faith is energized by these young guys. I was 32 years old before I realized what this faith journey is truly all about. And having been raised in a Christian Catholic home, I thought I was doing everything right. I was I went to Catholic grade school. I went to Mass not only every Sunday, but every day as part of our schooling. I went through all the programs, confirmation, First Communion. I did all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was 32 years old before I realized that this faith journey is all about a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I was kind of frustrated that why didn't somebody tell me that?
Yeah.
Why didn't they tell me that that's the focal point of faith? Why didn't anybody encourage me to be reading my Bible every day? Um, for too many years in my life, I was concerned about doing things. You know, in our tradition, many, many years ago, you don't eat meat on Friday. You have to go to church every Sunday. You have to do all these things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to suggest that there's anything wrong with those things. I'm just saying that there was very little emphasis put on a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And when I work with these young guys, I try to encourage them to think of it in terms of a husband and wife relationship or a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. To get into a personal relationship with Jesus, when you first start dating a girl, for example, something has to attract you to her. It could be a physical attraction.
Yeah.
It could be, many of these guys have stories about, oh, I met her in school. I met this girl in school. Well, I just heard her talking in class, and I thought, wow, she's kind of an interesting person. And so, but something sparks an interest. And so I believe that all of us begin a relationship with the Lord by having something attract us to our faith, to Jesus. It could be just your encouragement from your parents as you're growing up, whatever it is. But then the relationship has to grow, and I maintain that there has to be two vital ingredients for any relationship to grow, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or whether it's with you and the Lord. And that's number one, time, and number two, communication. And you brought up time first thing today, Dan, and time is so vital to a relationship. And how many of us are truly spending time with the Lord? Again, with the baseball players I work with, I encourage them. They know their schedule, their daily schedule. They know they have to be at the ballpark at 8 o'clock. They know they're going to be lifting weights at this time. They know that they're going to be out on the field practicing this time. They know they're going to be throwing a bullpen session at this time. Everything is charted out for them. So I was encouraging them. I says, well, where in your daily schedule do you have time written for the Lord? For me personally, it's 6:30 to 8 in the morning. That time is my time with the Lord. Don't try calling me then because my phone's off. It's just me and the Lord. We're going to spend time together. And I do that through prayer time. I do it by listening to some Christian music. I do it by scripture reading. Um, there's many things I do during that time with the Lord. And then the communication part of it. Am I communicating to the Lord? Are you, you know, a lot of my players will say, "Oh yeah, I pray every night."
Yeah.
Well, if you have a relationship with a girlfriend, or if a husband has a relationship with a wife, and all the only communication you have is 5 minutes at the end of the day, where's that relationship going to go? Not very far. And so, in Thessalonians, it talks about where to pray continually, pray constantly. And so, incorporating communication into our daily living in everything we do. I'm praying during baseball games. I'm talking to the Lord as I'm watching baseball games. Uh, so, I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, Dan.
No, you did. And you know what, Dukes, I mean, and like you said, you talked about time and communication. And we live, and I can't take credit for what the society is called, but it's true. And I heard it a long time ago from a gentleman, Mike Sofka. He said, we live in a microwave society. And if it takes a minute to cook, it's too long. So there's that time side of it, of they want to, and listen, and you're a single man in society, I'm a single man in society. My experience as a single man, and it's funny because I was talking to one of my nieces last night, and she's like, have you been dating? And I said, not really. And she said, I said, I've had one girlfriend, someone that I asked to be my girlfriend, in the last 4 years. And I told her, I said, it's not that I didn't take women out. It's not that I didn't talk to plenty of women, take a woman out on a date or a second date or a fourth date, but there was nothing that showed me I want to attach myself to this person. And I told her, I said, I don't date for sport. I don't date for the sake of dating. I don't date because I don't want to be alone. I will date someone in the hopes that that person will be my wife. And I'm constantly discerning that with the Lord. And so in the last, people look at it like, oh, in the last 4 years, did nobody want you? I'm like, no, I didn't see any road that was going to lead me where I needed to go. And I felt like when I was with these women, including the one that I asked to be my girlfriend, and we were only dating for a short time, I felt like that road was taking me so far off God's path for me that I had to reassert where I needed to be. And it was tough. I didn't listen to God. God was clear with me. And as I always do, when I don't listen to him, I have to pay a price. I have to hurt. And then I get back on track. And then I look up at him and go, wow, I should have listened to you. And he's like, yeah, I know. How many times are you going to do this, Dan? So for me, time and communication, people don't want to take the time. I actually had a woman who I took out on one date say to me, and after we had this we went on the date was fine. It was all right. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was all right. And at the end of the date, I talked to her on the phone a few hours later, and really almost everything that came out of her mouth was not what I believe a relationship is supposed to be. And one of the things, to your point, Dukes, is about time and communication. She said one statement that really hit both of these. She said, you need to tell me what every woman has done to you up to this point so that I can know what not to do to you. You got to tell me all your history so that I get a playbook for you, essentially. And I said, I don't think I have to tell somebody not to cheat on me to not cheat on me. I don't think I have to tell you, well, I was yelled at, so please don't yell at me. So she also said, we have to go from steps 1 and 2 and jump to step 3. We are too old. Now, I'm 39. She was, I think, 36. She's 36 or something like that. She said, we are too old to go through the steps, essentially too old to take the time. So you have to communicate to me everything that's happened to you, everything you've been through, how you want to be loved, what you need, what you want, so that I can understand it, because I don't have time to get to know you. I don't have time to go through all this stuff because we're old. And I just remember sitting in the conversation and saying to myself, this woman wants me to communicate to her, essentially not communicate to her, to just write a bunch of things down and hand it to her as if I'm sending a telegram or I'm working for her. And we don't want to spend time in her book to get to know each other. So write it all down. Let me know what it is. Submit your report, and then I'll review it. And to me, that's not a relationship, nor is it what you just said, Dukes, time and communication.
Well, yeah, there's nothing to disagree with as far as I'm concerned. It's spending that time together. It's the communication that's the journey in a relationship. And if that relationship is not in the Lord's will, I believe very strongly that He will, through the power of the Holy Spirit who lives in us, He will make that discernment known to you. Um, I I had three relationships that most people thought were going to end in marriage.
Yeah.
And it was over a course of almost 12 years of my life. I had a desire to be married. I had a desire to have a family. And yet the Holy Spirit in all three of these relationships was whispering in my ear saying, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And it's easy for me to look back now and recognize that God has given me an incredible gift that we call celibacy. Paul talks about it in Corinthians, that there's something to be said about the single life. But we live in a society that puts a lot of pressure on people to become married. And I believe, and I think Paul backs this up, that most people should get married. But there is that gift of celibacy that God has given to a select few of us. I believe He's given it to me. And today I am so, so grateful for that gift. I believe God has, I don't want to use the word satisfied, but through my relationships with all the students and athletes, and more particularly through my nieces and nephews that I've had, I believe I've received some of that family love that some people might think I'm missing out on because I'm not married. I don't think I am missing out on it. No, that's not fair to say that either, because yeah, I mean, to be married and have a family is an incredible gift from God as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't have both. And the people who are married with families, they can't have that gift I have of celibacy. So God has designed each of us and given us each special gifts, and sometimes it's hard to go through that discernment process of knowing what gifts He's given you as an individual. But in my own personal story, I came to discover that gift, and I'm very, very grateful for it.
Well, and like you said, to have the love that you have in the family that surrounds you. I tell people this all the time, and it's funny in dating. It's something that I will say to a woman the first time I talk to her. She said, "Do you have any siblings?" And I say, "Okay, I'm going to tell you my life, and in short, in not a lot of words here, but I'm going to tell you this, and this is what it is." I said, "I am an only child, but I have, in my opinion, a bunch of brothers and a couple sisters. Now, some of them are my blood relatives and they're my cousins, but they're more like brothers and sisters. And then some of them are not my blood and they're my brothers and sisters. Their children only know me as Uncle Dan. I am a godfather to one of them. I am an uncle to many of them. I consider them to be my nieces and nephews and my brothers and my sisters. I am not going to refer to them as anything else. And I'm telling you this now so that you know if and when you ever meet my mom or dad, that I am their only kid. However, if it comes to Isaac or it comes to Franny or whatever it may be, these are my siblings." Now, some women go, "Okay, that's beautiful. That's wonderful." And I always say, I'm like, I chose them and they chose me. We're not stuck with each other because we're blood. we chose each other. And to me, they're the truest brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews that I can have. I don't see them as anything other than family, Dukes. And it's not a delusional thing. That's how they treat me. That's how I treat them. I tell people my dog is my kid. And if I only ever have Lily, that sweet soul that God has blessed me with in my life is the only child that I ever need. Now, I will not apologize for any of this stuff. But I have been on dates with women where they'll say, okay, so you have nieces and nephews, but you have nieces and nephews with air quotes. They'll say, you don't have any real family. And so when I was talking about my niece, she said, oh, okay, this is the fake niece. And in that moment, I just took myself right out and said, like, this is the last meal that I will be spending on this person. This is the last conversation that, I intend to have with this person in person. And that was it. But to your point and to my point, you are not married and you don't have children. I am not married and I don't have children. Yet God has surrounded us with people that have given us this blessing. I love kids and I always have. And I've always wanted my own. But because I don't have my own doesn't mean that I don't run around with the ones that I have and to be an uncle. And as much as they're not my son or daughter, I get to go to Noah's soccer game. I get to sit with Ari and talk to her about what's important to her and what matters to her. I got to sit with my oldest niece last night and I got to talk to her about her life and decisions that she's made and how everything's going. And to, give her a hug and look her in the eye and tell her how much I love her. So to me, Dukes, I don't think God has discounted our life in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, not at all. In fact, uh, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about we are a part of the family of God. We have committed our lives to Christ, and so we do have a family that is every bit as real as our earthly families. And so, I view it the same way, Dan. I have so many brothers and sisters in my life. And another key point you brought up is that we choose these people. And that makes for a beautiful relationship as well. I believe again in my own story. Let me say this very humbly. Let me say this. I taught at two different high schools in my 34-year career, and I've been inducted into the Hall of Fame at both of those schools. Now, Dan, I was never Teacher of the Year.
Yeah.
I was never Coach of the Year. I never even took a team to the state tournament. If you look at it on paper, I'd be a very average teacher, a very average coach. So I even mentioned this in one of my acceptance speeches. I said, so why am I being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
And I believe there's only one reason. It's because I loved my students. I loved my students as a father loves his kids. And they knew that. And when you love your kids that way, that means you also discipline them.
Yeah.
But again, I really believe my students knew that I loved them. And so as a single person, I've been able to love thousands of kids in a way that, at least in my mind, not a lot of teachers love their kids the same way.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. And to me, Dukes, I would only know you as a Hall of Famer because of the way that you treat people, the way you've treated me, the kindness that you have, and just the generosity the willingness to listen, the willingness to help. And I've said this to you before, but it's like when you get a message from Dukes, it's not a couple lines. Like, yeah, when we're talking about being on the show, it's like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And those are quick text messages. But when you get a message from Dukes, be it a text message or an email to catch up with you, every birthday, I get a full-blown email of, hey, brother, this is what I'm up to. This is what I've been doing. This is how my life's been so far. I hope all these things for you. I hope you're doing well. There's a Bible verse in there somewhere. There's time spent on it and the willingness to communicate. You're not someone who just fades away. You're someone who reaches out. And if it's been a little while, you'll reach out again. And I've told you this before, but I remember sitting on the floor thinking to myself, I can't text Dukes and I can't email him and I can't call him because the relationship I'm in, he's going to yell at me. In a good way. Because like you said, you love your people and you're willing to be honest, that discipline, that tough love. And it's interesting because there's two words that I ran away from in dating, and now I don't. And those two words are discernment and the hyphenated word equally yoked. And learning things from you in that sense, Dukes, has really taught me a lot. And so, yes, you're the Tampa Bay Rays press box manager. Yes, you're connected to the world of sports, and I am as well. But you and I serve a God far beyond any baseball that can be hit, any perfect game that can be thrown, and any championship that can be won. And I want to thank you for the fact that you were never saying anything to hurt me. You were never being hard on me. You were trying to get me to focus on God and not on myself. And it took me a while to get there. But if I had listened to you beforehand, I would have discerned better, and my yoke would not have been connected to many that I had interacted with. So messages that I looked at years ago and thought, man, this guy's being so hard on me. Why is he being like this? Ended up being, man, this guy really loves me, and I trust the fact that he cares so much. So I can say firsthand, you are a good teacher.
Well, you're being overly kind, and I appreciate it. But as I mentioned earlier, I was 32 years old before I started getting a glimpse of what faith and a personal relationship with Jesus is all about. And so it takes all of us, we all have our own time. I was trained from the very beginning, but it took me a long time. And going back to one of your original questions is, how do I feel when I'm with these young guys who are 20? Well, to see them getting it when they're so young is so refreshing to me. It really gives my faith a jolt, and I'm so grateful for them. So,
Dukes Knutson here with us this morning. Dukes, before we jump in to the Rays and the conundrum that is there, you said something that I believe in. And recently, I was around someone that I don't think believes this. However, I can speak to personal accounts, many of them. Now, people say God does not get involved. You have free will. God does not talk to you. God does not move you. God is not involved with you in that way. God is in a chair up in the air, and he might guide and guard you, but you're never going to physically feel his presence. You're never going to feel his hand, and you're never going to hear his voice. I can tell you that is not true because I have experienced the opposite. You spoke of the Holy Spirit in the 3 relationships that you were looking at turning into marriage, that you heard God say, no, don't do that. I have personally, and I can go back to each of the instances in my life, heard God speak. And there was a moment that was very similar to yours, but it was early on in a relationship where the person, their knee-jerk reaction was to run. And like 8 days into dating this person, they went to my door and they're like, whatever, I'm going to leave. I don't need this, da 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 da. And I went to say something, and the best way for me to describe this is God came down my stairs like a gust of wind, stopped at my ear, was totally peaceful, and she said, I'm going to leave. And he said, then let her leave. And I said, I got this. And I saw him kind of lean back and go, okay, sarcastically. But when people say, you'll never hear God, you will never feel God, you will not have him interact with you because he doesn't do that. Dukes, I cannot tell you how many times the Lord has done something in my life with extreme clarity. And the older I get, the more clear and the more direct he is becoming. I can hear his voice clearer now. And it has been in so many components of so many pieces of my life where I can tell you he literally pushed me away from somebody, not in a forcibly mean way. And spoke to me when he did it. I said, get away from this person. I cannot tell you how many times this has been so abundantly clear. So you said, I heard the Holy Spirit say no. And I have also heard God say, we're not doing this. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that and the fact that there are people that do not believe that God will ever intervene or be clear.
Well, maybe you're familiar with the song Waymaker, popular Christian song. And in the chorus of that song, it says, even when I don't feel it, you're working. Mm-hmm. Even when I don't see it, you're working. And again, I can look back in my journey and see how that is so true. There are times when I didn't feel the Lord's presence. I didn't see him, but that doesn't mean he wasn't there. He communicates loudly and clearly. And the more you grow in a relationship, and again, in any relationship, if you're dating a girl, as the relationship grows, oftentimes you might know what she's going to say before she even says it, because you're starting to really get to know her. And I think that's true in our relationship with the Lord. The more we grow in our relationship, the more clear his voice is. And to people who don't believe that, I just simply say, well, it's obviously you don't have a relationship with the Lord yet. I hope you get there. I hope it's your time soon, because he says in Scripture, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Come to me, all who are burdened and heavy laden. He issues these invitations. He does speak to us. But on the other hand, Dan, you know who else speaks to us? Mm-hmm. Satan. Mm-hmm. Satan. He's speaking to us all the time. And he's trying to outdo the Lord. And sadly, when we don't have a relationship with the Lord, we oftentimes are listening to Satan. He does it through our culture. You can look at even music or movies and all these messages we're getting. There's a lot of communication going on. But I think you have to have faith, trust, obedience, and that personal relationship with the Lord in order to be filled with the Holy Spirit and hear his messages.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, God is not the only one talking. And I tell people this all the time. I said, I can prove that God exists, and I can also prove that the other side does too. And it's funny how there are people that don't believe in God and mock people that believe in God, but they believe in the devil. So you believe in the one that was created by God, but you believe in something that was created by God, but you don't believe in God. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like you believe in creation, but not who created it. And to your point of there's different voices trying to talk to us at all times, people have to understand, and I had this conversation recently, the devil does not come to you like the movies say the devil comes to you. He doesn't come to you with like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah. Like it's not this like weird, creepy, like slithering voice. Hey, what's going on? You know, it's very soft. It's very kind. It's very comforting, because think about any villain ever. They have to gain your trust, right? Somebody that wants to steal from you, they have to gain your trust. Somebody that wants to come into your house has to gain your trust. So how are you going to gain someone's trust? By being weird and gross and dirty and this? So they say, you know, he beautiful singing voice, can quote scripture as good as anybody. And I think that's something to pay attention to, Dukes, is to remember the fact that people are waiting for God to be like, I love you. Here's $1 million. And you know that it's me because I gave you something good. And then there's this then they think the devil's coming up going, hey, I want you to ruin your life. What do you think about it? And that's not how the voices come up. God might tell you, no, you're not going to have $1 million right now because you don't know what to do with it. It would change you in a bad way. You're not prepared for it. I need to move you over here first. That's not my calling for you. Where the devil would be like, I'll give you whatever you want as long as you come hang out with me for a little bit. And Denzel Washington said something incredible. He said, did you ever see somebody where it's like the devil leaves them alone and they think like, oh, like I must be doing something great because the devil's not fighting with me. And it's like, oh no, the devil's looking at you going, oh, he's my favorite. I love him because he's out there doing everything that I need him to do. He's so anti-God. That's why I leave him alone. That people need to understand, the devil does not bother people. What did they say? An enemy does not break into an empty house. So there's the reality of if you always feel a presence of something where you say, get behind me, Satan, get off of me, God, I love you, God only. If you feel the presence of the devil consistently, it's not that you are bad, it is that you are good. It is that there is something that he is trying to take out of this house that God built. And it is very important to understand that the voices may sound similar, but you have to differentiate which one is coming from God and which one is not. Because the devil serves no purpose to himself, posing as himself. He only serves a purpose to himself when he poses as God. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, and again, I go back to how prevalent that is in our society today. It's going on all the time. One of my frustrations, and I know I'm not good at this, is when I do confront people who are non-believers, and in my mind, they're not only non-believers, but they're closed-minded. They're not willing to listen to my side, God's side. They've just made up their minds. I don't want to hear about it. Yeah. And I've often told some non-believing friends, I said, let's just say that I'm wrong. Let's say there's no God. I'm wrong. Yeah. I can guarantee you that I'll go to my deathbed and I will never regret committing my life to the Lord and living by his standards. I am so full of the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, grace, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Yeah. Those govern my daily living. And when you're full of love, joy, and peace, so if I'm wrong, I'm still living with those things. But if you're wrong, and you're going to spend eternity in hell, wow. That's too big of a risk for me.
Right.
But I just ask them, please be open to the possibility that I'm right and there is a God and he does communicate. He does love you.
Yeah.
Um, Explore it, look more into it. I really believe that God says, ask, seek, and knock. And so we have to be proactive in seeking this relationship with him. And not all, but certainly I'll say too many of my non-believing friends aren't willing to even consider another side.
Well, like you said, and it's sad to hear that. But like, and I've encountered people like that as well. It's if you don't believe in God and you don't answer to anybody and you feel that you can do whatever you want, however you want, because there are no consequences as long as you don't get caught, you're mortgaging your entire life on a hope that you're right. If you live your life as a good, kind, forgiving, positive, hardworking, dedicated, responsible, honest human being, what have you mortgaged if God wasn't to exist? What have you given up? I look at two people at a roulette table. The person that doesn't believe in God has taken $100,000 worth of chips and put it all on one number and hope for the best. And here goes that ball spinning. And there's all these other numbers out there. What if you're wrong? What if you just bet on red or bet on black? Right? 50-50. Half the table's red, half the table's black. Half the table, okay, we believe in God, half the table we don't. If it doesn't come up, you've lost $100,000. But then you got another person playing at the roulette table that's saying, no matter how many chips I might put out here, no matter how many things I might try in this life, I will never bet my core. I will never bet the majority of what I have. I will live within my means. I will see and entertain conversations. I will discuss a chip here, a chip there. But I have every intent to walk away from this table with an ability to continue to afford the life that I have. My soul is worth something to me. I'm not worth mortgaging my soul at this table. And I believe in God fully. So do you. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, Dukes. And I will just say this to the world, and I have said this so many times, and I'm really sad. And this is the thing. I have sat in a studio, and I am so grateful to God that this one is mine. I have sat in a studio of this station and that station, and then got my own studio and have changed it over the years to be what it is today. I sit here today, and I think back to me 10 years ago, to me 20 years ago, when I started my career 21 years ago and some change. That guy was like, I believe in God and some people don't, but I'm so proud and I want to put it out there. You fast forward to me today, and every time I mention God, my head goes, you might lose a listener. You might lose a follower. You might lose a supporter. I'm willing to lose them. Because I've said on this show countless times, if you believe in God or you don't, if you're this religion or that religion, whatever you are, I welcome you. Because Jesus never spit on anybody or threw anybody in the trash. So if you don't believe in God and you're listening to my show, hey, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. But as I accept you, accept that I will pray, accept that I will talk about God. It is not fair for me to accept you and you do not accept me. And we live in a society like that right now. And sitting in this chair today, Dukes, I feel closer to God than I did yesterday or a month ago or 10 years ago. But it also felt different because I felt like, oh, the majority of America is on my side. Majority of America is with God. I don't know where America stands today. But I'm not here to please America. I am not here to please this world. I am not of this world. I am but a visitor. And I think that we want so badly to assimilate into this world, Dukes. We want so badly to be accepted, appreciated, awarded, that we forget that we are but visitors of this world. And so I go back to your point. If God does not exist, what have I lost by being a good person? If God does exist, I have lost everything by not being a good person.
Yeah, and I guess I would maybe amend that last part a little bit that there are a lot of non-believers who are good people,
100%.
but but what they're risking is not as much in this life as the next, and that is such a stark difference. Heaven or hell, that's your choice, and that's a key word right there too. It's a choice. What are you going to choose? You and I choose the Lord's way. There's a lot of people, and I'm sure some are listening to your show right now, who are saying, no, I choose the world's way. No, I just want you to understand that there's a consequence at the end of this life. And I just hope and pray that you've given that consideration in your discernment process on which way you want to live your life.
Yeah. And like you said, and I fully agree, people that don't believe in God doesn't mean that they're bad people. My reference of at the end of my life, if I've chosen not to be a good person, I'm referring to people that are saying, I have no one to answer to, so I can lie, cheat, and steal, do whatever I want. I don't believe in the ends justify the means, and I never will. So Dukes, before I let you go, and I appreciate this conversation, I appreciate the fact that we are talking about God, and I would applaud and invite other members of the media to join me in speaking about God for but a minute and see how that would, again, what will it do to hurt you? If you talk about God on ESPN or on Fox or on Yahoo, how will that hurt your life? Well, Dan, I lost people that subscribed to me on X. Okay. I'm sorry you went from 4 million to 3.7. But at the end of your life, none of that's going to matter. By the way, if getting into heaven was based on social media followers, Jesus wouldn't even have made it in. Just to let y'all know. So let's go to the sports side of blessings in baseball for a minute. As much as I feel God right here, and I'm like, hey, I don't want to stop talking about you by any stretch of the imagination. I promise this will get back to you. But the Tampa Bay Rays, and this does really go to where sports meets life and to faith and to God, trusting in the process, trusting in things you can't control. Dukes, when I was reading about the Rays potentially getting sold and what does that mean for their future and will they relocate, the first person I thought of was you. It wasn't any of the players. It wasn't anybody that's like in the dugout or the bullpen or anything like that. I thought, man, Dukes loves this team so very much, and it's brought so much joy to his life. I don't want to see this team anywhere but within driving distance of this man. So I would love to get your thoughts of what you're hearing down there, because it has been Tropicana Field, then it was a hurricane, then it was you can't play at Tropicana Field this season, then it was that's okay, we got a stadium in the future, and then the stadium fell through, and then it was okay, are we fixing the field? Well, we got to play somewhere this year, so we're at Steinbrenner, and now the conversation is, will the team be sold? And if they're sold, will they leave? And then Nashville, Tennessee is a city that's come up. So I'd love to get whatever you've heard down there in Tampa and around this Rays team, because I know how much they mean to you. And I don't want this. Personally, I don't want to see them anywhere else.
Well, you just summarized it as well as I could, Dan, and I have not heard any more than you've heard. The possibility of them being sold apparently is greater today than it was last week. Where will they be? Nobody knows. Yes, there's speculation, but speculation is just based on hearsay. And I choose not to really pay much attention to hearsay. The good news, I guess, is that the potential buyers are Floridians. They seem to be interested in, as Commissioner Manfred has also said, that they're interested in keeping the Rays in this area. So it's just a beginning of a new journey. Being from Minnesota, I I remind people that it took the Twins 11 years to get Target Field built
Hmm.
from the time they first started discussions. Well, we're just starting new discussions now on the future of the Rays. So it's going to be years, I believe, um, before we decide we really know what's going to happen. Ideally, we're hoping there will be a new stadium deal in the near future, but so much has to be discussed and decided before that happens.
Yeah. And
I guess my primary concern right now is will Tropicana Field be playable for next season? And I'm presuming that it is. It will be our home for at least 2 or 3 years. So we just have to wait and see.
yeah, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, he has come out and said, we are not allowing this team to leave. We are being talking about the fact that, we know how fast this state is growing. And so there's a hope. I was just looking at some things here about, staying in the state and everything that I just saw of the top three stories that just popped up here was not about leaving the state of Florida. I hope that they won't. And, for you, because I know how much you love them. And I mean, I've had a soft spot for the Rays. They came into the league the same year that my Arizona Diamondbacks came in. And I am connected to that. Just like I'm a Jaguars fan and I'll always have a soft spot for the Panthers because they came in at the same time. And I mean, I have Devil Rays stuff. My dad has Devil Rays stuff. And, I proudly rock it. I actually have a watch of the Tampa Bay Rays. My Invicta watches that I have, one of my watches is the Tampa Bay Rays logo that you're seeing on the screen inside of the watch. So, the Tampa Bay, even though they're not my team, the state of Florida is our second home, personally and professionally for me. And so many people I love live there, including Dukes, and so many connections I've made are there, including Tampa Bay and the Rays. So I am very much on the side of keeping them there and not being in a place where the Athletics are, Dukes, where they're not in Oakland, they're in Sacramento, but not forever, but they're supposed to be in Vegas, maybe, hopefully, at some point. I don't want this like weird purgatory for the Tampa Bay Rays. And yes, they're exceptional at finding talent, young talent, building through the draft, building through the farm system. They are incredible at finding diamonds in the rough. And then once those guys show themselves in the majors, somebody wants to pay them more money. The Rays typically don't spend a ton of money on contracts and they lose these guys and then they reload. It's very rarely is Tampa ever rebuilding in the last many years. They're just constantly reloading. So I know that it's maybe atypical, right? They don't have a pitcher that's going to be out there for 7 innings. They're going to be putting the 5, 6 guys out there in a game. But what the Rays have done in pitching and what the Rays have done in finding talent and not necessarily paying the big contract, but going and finding talent after that, listen, it's working. They're in the conversation for the playoffs. They've made the playoffs numerous times. So I think whatever people want to say about Tropicana Field and or the Tampa Bay Rays, you and I both know, Dukes, the system that they have when it comes to pitching, the system that they have when it comes to their farm team and growing these their farm system and growing these players through it. Whatever the Rays have been doing for the last many years has been working well enough to have them in the conversation. So I appreciate the work that they've done. And as many people want to knock the Tropicana Field or Tampa Bay for not paying a big contract, I would commend them on finding systematic ways to win games, winning at times where they might be going through injuries and they just find a way to make better chess moves, and the fact that they have some of the smartest scouts in the country.
Well, I know I've said this to you before, Dan, but those of us who have worked regularly at Tropicana Field, generally, there's always exceptions, but generally, we love Tropicana Field.
Yeah.
I've had members of the national media come to our press box who have I've heard basically bash Tropicana Field in the national media, and I've challenged them to specifically what is it about the stadium that you find so abhorrent?
Yeah.
And very few of them give me answers that to me are very satisfactory. Some people say, "Well, we don't like domes." I get that. I get some people don't like domes, but you know what? We have to have a dome down here. The rain in the summer, the oppressive heat, the humidity, it makes no sense not to have a dome. I would rather have a beautiful skyline view, sunshine, blue skies every day and every night, but that's not the reality. And so, and then people will tell me, oh, the traffic is so bad. Dan, I've never been to a major league stadium where the traffic has not been bad.
Yeah.
It's I love going to Chicago because I can take the train to either Wrigley or Guaranteed Field. And I love that we have that communicate transportation system. But traffic is always going to be an issue. But what is it about the Trop? The Trop is air conditioned, 72 degrees every day. It's got good sight lines. It is 30 years old now. So okay, so it needs some bringing up to date a little bit. But as a baseball field, even players I've talked to, the vast majority of them said that they love it. I was talking to some of the Texas Rangers last week when they were in town. Oh yeah, we love the Trop.
Yeah.
So I still don't understand why it gets such a bad reputation nationally. But that's life.
Well, people like to bandwagon jump, and when 1 and 2 and 10, people think that if there's quantity, they're right. But that's, as we found in America many times, just because there's a lot of people moving in one direction doesn't mean it's the right direction. And I told you, the last time I was at the Trop a couple of years ago, I genuinely did not want to leave. The grounds people were cleaning. There was nobody left in the building outside of like you and team personnel and myself. I walked around the Trop. I took so many different angled pictures. I did my post-game stuff. So I shot video with me in it. I shot video of just the Trop. I shot stuff outside. I shot stuff inside. It was like leaving a good friend and being like, let's take 17 pictures together to remember today. I could not wait to come back to the Trop while I was still in it. And to this day, I want to come back. And the only reason why I didn't last season is because scheduling wise, when the team was home, there just wasn't time where there was enough time when I was down in Florida that this made sense and this was going to work. But I have every intent to being there at some point this season between now and September. And so, I look at it a totally different way. I look up just at the top of the dome from the inside, and I'm like, man, this is cool. Man, this is different. And so I have a different view of the Trop, and I have every intent to be there when it reopens. Now, if I come down, obviously I got to go to Steinbrenner Field, and I'm excited for that too, because some people might say, oh, this is such a nuisance, and why do I have to do this and that, and da-da-da. The people that hate the Trop would complain having to go to Steinbrenner Field because they're just people that complain, where I would say, hey, God, thank you for an opportunity. I probably would have never gone to Steinbrenner Field if not for this moment. So as we know, Dukes, it's all about perspective, and it's all about appreciating, and I tell people all the time, if you woke up this morning and you're complaining about something in your life or someone in your life, guess what? Thank God that you woke up to complain. And if you have someone to complain to, thank God that you have somebody willing to listen to you. Even the worst parts of your day are blessings because you're alive to have them. And if you have someone to talk to about them, wow, God's looking out for you. And people look at me like I'm nuts. You want me to be happy that I have something to complain about? You want me to be happy that I'm frustrated? Yeah, because you know who's not frustrated? People that are dead. So you have the opportunity to look at your life a little bit differently. And if you have a friend to call when you're having a crisis, big or small, that's God showing up in your life, whether or not you're willing to admit it. And hopefully one day you will. Dukes, as always, I appreciate you.
Yeah, can I just add? I have a very good friend of mine that whenever we're in a conversation and either one of us starts to complain about virtually anything, we remind each other that isn't it nice to have first world problems? And it's like you say, you call it a blessing. It's a blessing to have first world problems. And so let's try to stop complaining and look at them as blessings.
Yeah. If your biggest problem is I don't like domes and there's traffic, wow. I would say to you, thank God you get to go to a game. Thank God you're in a city that has a team. Thank God that you're healthy enough to get there. Thank God that you have a car and you can afford it and you can afford the insurance on it. And thank God that you probably have enough money to afford the food when you go in there and you can have a hot dog and you can have a cheeseburger and have a drink. So, yes, traffic sucks. But you know what I look at when I'm in traffic? When I go to complain and I'm saying stuff, I'm like, you know what? I'm happy I got this car. I'm happy I'm alive. I'm happy I got this life. And I'm happy that no matter what traffic I'm in, I always got music to listen to, and I got a God I can talk to, more importantly, any time of the day. Dukes, as always, I don't know how to say goodbye, and I won't, so I will say see you soon. And I look forward to actually seeing you in person sooner than later, because I would like to have some fireside chats where we just get to sit, enjoy the weather, sit outside, enjoy the stars outside, and just have a good old friend conversation. And I appreciate you as always.
And we can have blessings in baseball.
Absolutely. God bless you as always, my friend.
Love ya.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
See you. That coming from Dukes Knutson here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. And we will take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, we will round out today's show and get you ready for what's to come. As always, I appreciate you and I thank you for being here. And cannot say enough about conversations like that. Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We're back right after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com.
Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York, to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There was a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There's a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really change the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allow customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water water machine, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean-to-cup coffee machine. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. And in a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks comes to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. They are your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. You can find GG Cards and Breaks open for you Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5 with hockey, soccer, basketball, baseball, football, as well as Disney Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and Pokemon cards while supplies last. Go and be a big kid at GG Cards and Breaks, enjoying everything that they have to offer, from singles, graded cards, packs, boxes, autograph cards, potential 101s, RPAs, which stands for Rookie Patch Auto. You never know what you're going to find. That's why every day going into GG Cards and Breaks is like opening a gift on a holiday or on your birthday. GG Cards and Breaks is special, unique, and a wonderful place to continue to make memories with those that you love. We'll see you over at GG Cards and Breaks Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and on Sundays from 10 to 5. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I appreciate you being a part of the show today, as always, with us on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Of course, you are with us on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. And once the shows go live, they hop into the archives. You'll find them on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine,
Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. You can also go to your Alexa or Google Home device and ask them to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they will do that for you as well. A big time thanks to our wonderful partner down in North Carolina, the Brooklyn Pickle. You will find the Brooklyn Pickle in Southern Pines on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. And they are our partner in our segment in a New York Minute, bringing you positive, inspirational, and real advice all throughout the year in a segment that we do on all of our social media. Head to Brooklyn Pickle to feed your appetite and watch in a New York Minute to feed your mind and your heart. 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. And a big time thanks to our partners in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, Avicoli's, Servomation, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Pizza Man, Brian's Landing. And I do want to remind you that today is Wednesday, which means at Carvel DeWitt, you can get buy one, get one of my Sunday, the DT Dolphin, every single Wednesday is buy one, get one, and it's available every day of the week on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bobcats every month with student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni joining us here where sports meets life. You can find all of our content with the Bobcats by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our BSC Bobcats playlist. You'll also find the Bobcats by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time during Bearcat Time. You will find your Bearcats here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni join in the show. And, of course, you can go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist. The Bearcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank Dave Paziak for the awesome conversation, as always, on the NBA. And I want to thank Dukes Knutson in Blessings in Baseball, speaking on God, faith, family, friendship, and, of course, the sport that we love all around the wonderful pastime of baseball. So with all that being said, I thank you for tuning in. I thank Dave and Dukes once again. And on Facebook, you'll find us at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. For now, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, God bless, no stress, do your best. Stand up for yourself, be the best person that you can be, and remember the Lord's Prayer. Forgive others as you would want God to forgive you.